So August, September, big baby months. Is the Well Baby Center just standing room only right now?
No, there's plenty of room for new moms and
Plenty of room
dads
for new
and
moms.
babies. And
So it's here in Los Angeles. And when did you start it?
in about 5.5 years.
5.5 years ago. And tell me what kind of parents walk into your door? How old are their kids by the time they find you?
Well, sometimes they're inside babies. In the last trimester, this is a real baby. It's the same baby that comes out, and you see it as an outside baby. And that baby is just as conscious as the outside baby is, only they're still inside, So
what do you offer at Well Baby Center? What kind of services?
Well, we have parenting classes, counseling services, and then these groups called mindful parenting groups. And you can even do a prenatal mindful parenting group, which is to think about the inside baby, think about who this baby is. So they can start connecting.
Why is that important?
Well, the baby relies on relationships to form its sense of self, primarily the relationship of the mother, but also the father.
In general, as a society, this is a heavy question maybe, do you think that we're good at preparing people for parenthood?
Not really, no.
No?
We don't support the transition to parenthood. It's not taken seriously enough.
Some of the biggest misconceptions or myths new parents have.
That the baby is not really a conscious being yet because it can't
just kind
talk
of
to you.
a cute blob.
Yeah. And definitely while they're still inside babies, but they're still having a relationship. They hear your voice for 9 months. They know your heartbeat. I mean, they know you better than anybody in a certain way, right? Because they're really part of you as a mother.
So you talk about attachment, infant parent attachment. What is that about?
It's where where the parent, it does have enough presence of mind, isn't too preoccupied with unresolved loss from their own childhood, that they can really be open and receive the communications, read the cues, receive the communications, to provide a good, Winnicott calls it a good enough mothering environment, so that when the baby comes out and meets the world, they learn that the world is a safe place. They learn that the world can meet their needs. And if the parent sees a baby fall down and they go, "Oh my God," the baby's going to say there's something terribly wrong. If they go, "Oh, poor baby, let me help you. That was scary."
Happens in that first year could really have an impact on an entire lifetime for
Definitely.
a child. So I understand cardiovascular disease.
Definitely.
That's one of the things that can come about because of cortisol and
Right,
the rest, right?
right.
But also strokes and heart attack and diabetes.
The way I explain is, the baby has all the equipment of any human being, right? They have there's a whole range of emotions and capacities, right? What do they lack? What's different from them and us is experience. We feel each other. So the baby is picking up on your cues. You're picking up on the baby's cues non-verbally. You don't need words. Don't you
huge.
ever feel that way?
Right, absolutely. Well,
you can pick up on things?
That's right, because we know that studies have shown that 92-93% of the emotional message in communication is nonverbal, right? So I'm a dad, I'm sitting at home, and I'm listening to Deborah Groening here tell me that I can't freak out when my baby, well, if I do, then I've got to somehow soothe the child.
Right.
My baby hurts
Rupture
themselves,
care.
right?
Because then they learn, things like I got missed, like this I didn't get attuned to just then. Oh, but now he's saying, I wasn't, I didn't pay attention, and now you're crying, and you've been hungry too long, and okay, I know what to do for you. I'm going to go get you, some food. Hopefully, it actually buffers them. It makes them stronger. It's sort of like a wound that heals, and it's stronger. If you
do then?
Well, if you
come back at some point.
If you have to leave the room, you have to leave the room. And then you say, "Oh, you missed me. You were so sad. I know."
Well, see, that's very interesting because what you're doing, I hear it in your voice, I see it in your facial expression, your body movement. There's a lot of empathy there. Okay,
Right.
So here's something that you said. You said when a baby is born into a family, all the ghosts from the past will come to pay a visit. Now,
invited
what do you
or
mean?
not.
Right.
What do you
Mostly
mean by that?
uninvited.
So does that have something to do with how we tolerate the crying? Say if it pulls us back into our own experience
Yes.
as a child?
How were you parented?
And yeah, I did not have that information when Sydney was little. I read something that you wrote about what Dan Siegel talks about, making sense of your past.
That's right.
Right?
That's
and it's
key.
not exactly. It's not what happened to you, it's how you make sense of what happened to you.
It's a beautiful concept, isn't it? Because isn't it a hopeful one? Stored. All you have to do is have the strength and courage to go through a painful process. People are afraid of pain.
Well, so I was not attuned to.
Right.
So I didn't realize, go deal with that, because then what I did was I did way too much, which is then teaching a kid, I must not be able to do things for myself because she's overdoing it. So that must mean that I don't have the capacity to. You know?
That's interesting.
However they interpret it that. But yeah, you can overdo it if you haven't dealt with.
But you had the right intention.
I did.
And that's more important.
I have forgiven myself for the mistakes that
well,
I've
that's
made,
part
and
of the piece,
I've
right?
repaired as much as I can.
You really did intend to provide something that you didn't get.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it's so important to also work with what you didn't get, so you don't overcompensate.
Well, that's an important message, I think, for parents to say, don't beat yourself up. And I know that you've had conversations with Sydney, your daughter, very candid discussions.
Oh, yeah.
And you've shared that on the show as well, to say, hey, look, Mom was not perfect.
Right. And you have to be careful to not then put all the attention on, it was my fault. Oh, my God.
Right.
My mother, whenever I would bring something, that she did, I know I'm the worst mother ever.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, God.
Good enough parenting, though. It isn't perfect.
Yes, it's good enough.
There is no such thing as perfect.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Say that one more time.
There is no such thing as a perfect parent.
So it's good enough parenting.
Good enough parenting. That's what's important.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, what if you cannot somehow soothe your child because you're just going through so much at that point. We know about postpartum depression.
Yes.
University of Michigan studies said that depression is pretty common among new moms. What does that mean for, bonding with your child? Isn't there guilt associated with that because you're thinking, wait a second, shouldn't I be happy? Shouldn't I be?
That's true.
Everybody's
Absolutely.
excited, right? So it makes it worse a bit?
Yes.
Because not enough people talk about it and normalize it and say it's a natural process. When hormones are out of whack, it can come out in moods. It can come out in depression. It can come out in anxiety. Mostly depression is what I hear about and what I went through, you know. And I remember what I did because I knew enough to do what I had to do even though I felt depressed. So at that point, the left brain, I invited my left brain in and said, okay, but you still need to be there. You still need to be present. And you can still feel the way that you do.
That's really wonderful. I mean, that's the best you can do, but I think you need to get a lot of support.
Oh, yeah.
If it becomes longer than a few weeks and you're not able to do that, what you were able to, you're not able to overcome that, let's face it, it is harmful to the child. The child's not being seen, not being attuned to. They can feel the energy that the presence of the depressed mom. And it's harmful to the relationship. It's not intentional. But you need to go to support groups. You need to get help.
Right. What if
just to acknowledge, as we were talking about, that this is very serious. This is there is this fantasy that every new mother is going to be ecstatic. Some aren't. Some have other things that have ghosts from the nursery that are really preoccupying them and making that it has to get worked through.
The intention of the mother is not to be a bad mother, obviously.
Of course not.
So that might be one way of approaching the mom and say, obviously,
it's
you
an
want to do your
opportunity
best here.
because what they're doing in this state, if they're helped in some way, is these ghosts from the nursery loud. This is a time to take care of it, and there's no other time that a mother is going to be as motivated to do that because they know that they need to do it for their baby. Yeah. And so now they can work through. They can talk about it. They can say the unspeakable, that they don't know if they're ready to be a mother, or they are not finished being someone else's child. Like they have to give up the fantasy of being.
There's a grieving process.
Grieving process. It's a healthy grieving process. Exactly.
Right. I think the more that it's talked about and the more that it's normalized, and I've heard that most people go through this. Let's get some help. Let me help you. Let me be there for support.
And have some resources, that you've looked up maybe online, or you've talked to the doctor, trying to figure out where can we go now, instead of just, feeling terrible.
We have resources at Well Baby Center. So we just started to have groups for postpartum depression or baby blues or whatever. What you find is you're not alone. You're not a freak. You're not a bad person. you can't help it. It's things that are coming up that need to come up, combined with a role change that's phenomenal. You know, one minute you're an individual, the next minute you've got 24/7 this baby to take care of. So all this stuff in your relationship to your partner has changed. And so all this stuff, you need to have a place to process all this.
I mean, your services are just so amazing to have. I wish I had that when I was a new mom. And, you know, if anyone is like me, I'm avoidant attachment and isolate, and didn't realize until after how important it is to have that support and how much it helps. So I urge parents who, you know, if you're out there anything like me that you tend to isolate and keep to yourself, to reach out and get that support, because it can be so unbelievably helpful just to know that someone else is going through the same thing,
right.
that someone else has the same thoughts. Because what I did know enough is to know that a thought is just a thought.
That's right.
So when Sydney was being colicky, and I had the thought of chucking her out the window,
right.
that I felt, okay, it's just a thought.
That's
of course, I
right.
would never do it.
Right.
But parents then add on layers,
right.
you know, of guilt. Oh my God, I had that thought. Does that
Right.
make me a terrible person?
I don't want to go near that baby, because what if I have that impulse again? What if I automatically just do it without thinking? And, you know, it becomes this runaway train. It doesn't have to be.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be.
And
You're
I say it is
absolutely
serious because, like I said, things can happen. Things do happen. You can go into a deep depression where you just feel like your baby would be better off with someone else.
Well, you say
Thinking, and also, you know, you left your job, you have less, you know, financial stability, et cetera, you know, it goes, everything has changed. And the thing is, since they're not really giving back, they're like need machines.
right, right. Yeah. Well, as they should be at that age.
As they should be.
And to be able to find a way to have our own needs met as we're meeting their needs too.
Absolutely. It's so self-care is so important.
So
That's why going to a support group and hanging out with other parents, and by the way, this is fathers too. Fathers feel really left out. You know, we have fathers groups, and our mindful parenting groups are for mothers and fathers. So it's not a mommy and me, it's a parent and me. It's best for the baby, I say a little benign neglect, so that you can go and cuddle for a while. And if the baby cries, you know, okay. But, you know, you really need to have a hierarchy sort of.
because the big picture is the kid is going to be better off in the long run.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the more connected and the more on the same page the parents are. I don't know if you've already talked about this, but I think it would warrant repetition. Tell our audience what mindful parenting is.
Okay, so it's really just a word. The mindful part is about what we've been talking about, knowing yourself. So I really get triggered when my baby cries, I think my baby is rejecting me. I think that because when I was a child, you know, etc. So that's the reflective function part of mindful parenting. At the same time, so now then you're looking at the child. Well, what is the child really needing? What's underlying that behavior? Oh, the baby, I've been talking to the parents in the parenting group, and the baby feels left out. I get it. Oh, you feel left out, baby, you know, and you bring the baby to, you know, maybe you want a nurse or whatever is going on. So to think about your feelings and thoughts.
So what's coming up for you?
In the relationship, especially in difficult times, you know, if there's something going on that's difficult.
Right.
And the same thing, what's the underlying motivation? What's the need, desire that the baby is trying to express? Even if they're verbal, they speak in code. To get sort of under the covers a little bit and understand what's this child trying to communicate to me.
Well, and that's so important. I think our society still so much is trying to change the symptom. You know, when they talk about a child that's misbehaving at school, well, they're trying to figure out how to get the child to behave at school without trying to figure out why, without being curious, why is the child misbehaving?
That's why most of the time I don't do child therapy, and our interns don't. They really try to bring the parents in, especially if they're really young, because there's something that is getting missed in the relationship.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You're a big proponent of having the baby and the mom in the same room talking it out, right? Why is that important? Not just talking to the mom about it.
Right. Well, you can use the baby as a port of entry to the mom. Your mommy is really sad because she lost her mom when you were born, you know, whatever.
You're
the case
using
may be.
real words
Oh, yeah.
for a baby. That's astounding.
They've done, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but they've done research where talking to a child, even an infant, even a newborn, you know, where maybe it wasn't a planned pregnancy, and saying, you know, I wasn't sure, you weren't planned,
Yes.
but I love you anyways.
Tone of
The
voice.
tone and the pitch.
feeling, like I said, that you can just, it's just normal to have this energetic You can call it mirror neurons if you want, depending on what lens you're looking through. You know, this energetic exchange. So if you're speaking that way to a baby, that baby feels understood.
The baby can be a point of entry into the conversation. What other reason why you would have a baby
will
in the
respond.
room?
The baby will calm down. The baby will smile. The baby will reach. I mean, there's amazing things that happens. And this is in newborns, infants, but in the toddler years too. I mean, what they will act out in their play in mindful parenting groups still astonishes me. And it's so healing for the parent when we interpret what we're seeing. So what they're doing in the play, when we're just sitting, it's just a small circle of 6, small intimate group. It's very obvious once at first they think, well, there can't be a connection, but they totally know what's going on. They'll be, if you're talking about them and it's something that's upsetting or anxiety producing the mother, the child will start rattling and making a lot of noise. You really can't hear each other or talk. If there's like a resolution around it, all of a sudden the baby will be bringing me gifts, like food and, saying, thank you. Keep talking to mommy. She needs you.
How wonderful. Wow. What is the most interesting thing that you've seen in the communication of a toddler where the parent was astounded that the toddler was communicating?
A mother who had a very difficult childhood, and I won't get into anything specific, but she came into the group saying, I don't really want my child to attach to me because she's just going to be disappointed. And then you would see over time the evolution of the mother falling in love with the baby. And this was already like a 1.5-year-old. And it's just it's profound to witness. It really is.
Oh, and I'm sure that there were changes in the baby.
Oh,
as the mother
it was
became
amazing.
more attached.
Less clingy. You see, it's paradoxical again that there's something that they're feeling the anxious attachment.
Deborah Groening, the executive director, founder of Well Baby Center here in Los Angeles. If you want more information on this incredible organization, log on to wellbabycenter.org.
www.
There you go. And you can also follow them on Twitter at Well Baby Center. So
it is truly a gift to our city, and I hope that
Thank
people either take your lead or you're able to expand to other cities, because this is a true gift.
Thank you.